Okay, so I've just restarted the recording. All right, so what I want to do now is I want to show you this little trick of how we can use all of these pieces as body parts for the armature. So first of all, I'm going to make a complete copy of all of these objects. I'm going to make another set of them. Yes, that's what I'm going to do. All right, so with all of these objects here, I'm going to select them just by pressing Shift and holding them all down. Seems like there's 9 of them. I think that's it. And I'm going to press Shift D and then just left click so they stay in the same position. Then M for move, new collection, and I'll call them body parts. All right. Okay, so there's the body parts. So now they're in a separate little group of their own. Okay, so one thing we can do is I can just actually hide the rest of our things in our scene. And now we've just got the armature and the body parts. So first of all, with the body parts, what I want to do is remove all of their keyframes and just set them up as kind of normal objects again. So I'll just go through one at a time, clearing the keyframes and applying the scale. Shift A to apply the scale. And I'll just do that quickly. Right click to clear the keyframes. Clear more keyframes. Basically, because if we leave these keyframes in, then when we apply them to the motion, they're going to do all sorts of really weird stuff. Not what we want them to do, basically. Okay, getting there. So anytime you see a green or a yellow or any color in there, it just means that there are keyframes on that object. So when it's green, it means the keyframe is somewhere else in the timeline. And when it's yellow, it means you're right on that keyframe in the timeline. Okay, so I'll just clear out these keyframes. Okay. Now I'll just quickly go back up through them and see that there's none left, and I'm checking the scale is also 1. That one I didn't apply the scale. Apply the scale. That one I missed. Always good to check. Apply the scale. Up, 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 up. Okay, great. So now we've got our body parts here. So now I'll show you how to parent them to the mesh. And this type of parenting is when we basically kind of lock one object onto another, and it inherits some of the values from that object. So in this case, we want the movement data of this motion file to move these objects around. So to do that, with the armature selected, which is here, if we go into this tab here, which is the data properties for that skeleton, we go into the rest position. So that's like the default position of a skeleton. Then I'll grab one of my objects. The first one I'll grab is the cupboard, which I'll use for the body. And I'm going to position it on top of the body. And I'll just grab it, rotate it 90 degrees, grab it here, look from the front. So you always want to do stuff like this in the top, front, and side orthographic views. If you do it in perspective, it can be distorted and hard to see exactly what you're doing. But once it's in position, I want to just make sure that I can always see my skeleton. So if I click on it again and I go into the viewport display, I just click in front, and that means we can always see the skeleton. Okay, so I'm going to click on my mesh, shift click my armature or the skeleton, and then go from object mode into pose mode. Then I'm just going to select one bone. I'll just select this spine bone here. Then I'll press Control P and I just press bone. And this gives us a type of parenting that you use for like a rigid body or hard body sort of character, like a robot or someone wearing armor. Something where it's not bending, like skin bends, but we're just doing it like hard objects. So now if I go into pose position, you'll see that the cupboard, it's quite cool, is now moving, just inheriting the location, rotation, or the location and rotation data of the skeleton. It's quite cool. Okay, so we'll just go back to the rest position, and we'll do that for all of the objects until we've got some kind of cool, robot thing. Now, one of the problems you can see is that some of my objects are going to overlap with one another because they're not going to be the perfect size. Now, this is where, the amount of care that you put into your assignment, you can hopefully do this sort of, you might come up with far more artistic solutions. You might have more interesting objects in your bedroom, or perfect the sizes so that there's no overlapping. I'm just doing kind of a pretty quick job. So again, here I select my mesh, I shift select my armature, I go into pose mode, then I click on the bone, so the bone that I want is blue, I press Control P and then bone. Okay, so now I just go back to object mode and I'll grab, what will I use here? I just can't remember which things I used where and then which ones looked the best. I might change it a little bit this time. I'm just thinking these might look better as legs. So I have 2 legs, 4 arms. Well, I'll do something similar. Look, okay, so here I'm going to just rotate this. So when I'm moving, I'm just using R for rotate, and then I'm changing the views, G for grab, R for rotate, and I'm just putting them kind of over the bones, a little bit approximately, because we're sort of making a bit of a janky robot type of thing anyway. Shift select, pose mode, Control P, bone. Okay, object mode again, grab another leg. And I truly hope you can make something much better than what I'm making here, because I'm just making this sort of as a demonstration. This object, its transform is obviously, its center is somewhere different. Maybe that's to do with how we scaled it. Oh well, shouldn't matter for our parenting. Well, maybe it will. I might just set its origin to its geometry, just in case. Okay, so now shift select, pose mode, Control P, parent to bone. Go back to object mode. I think I'm going to have these as the shoulders, so I'll rotate that. Yeah, like it's going to look weird and kind of overlappy, but I'm just sort of making, it's a bit of like a magical furniture creature, so we can deal with it. Parent to bone, object mode, G for grab, R for rotate, and I'll look from the top, so it's way over here. Look from the front, it's okay. Look from the side, yep, back to the front. That'll do. Shift select the bones, go to pose mode, click on the correct bone, Control P, parent to bone. Okay, so you can see this is a little bit repetitive, and you're very welcome to skip past this bit in the video because I'm just doing the same thing over and over again. Okay, so I'm going to put these, inside like the forearms. Maybe I'll spin it around like that. Could look cool. Look from the top. Yep, it's in the wrong position. That's a bit better. Okay, shift select, pose mode, select the bone, Control P, parent to bone, object mode, G for grab. I had it this way rotated. Okay, that'll do. Shift select the armature, pose mode, click the bone, Control P, parent to bone. Okay, we're getting there. This is sort of like a weird some weird like junkyard monster, I guess. So I'm going to use the lampshades as the hands. That worked really well when I tested it out before, because you can kind of change the size of the lampshades and it looks like the hands are opening and closing. I thought that was kind of fun. So I'll just put it over the hand, and I'm giving everything a little bit of space just so there's not too much overlapping or clipping of the meshes, but there'll be a bit. Okay, object mode, pose mode. I'm going to grab that main bone in the hand, Control P, parent to bone. Okay. And if anybody with more experience is watching this video and you can see areas where I can improve this, I'm sure there's lots, and I'm very happy for you to tell me in the comments. Or even some happy keyboard shortcuts. I don't have a numerical keypad, so that's why I'm clicking the gimbal up the top all the time. Okay, so shift select the armature, pose mode, click the bone, Control E, cancel. Oh, I haven't saved for a while. Okay, I almost hit quit, and then realized I haven't hit save for a while. So that's a good lesson. Let's just save our file, save as, and I'll call it pre-anim. I'll just call it anim. So you'll see I save a few different versions, and I'm going to make this number 3, save as. All right. Well, that was a great little reminder to save your work. Okay, and now I'll just find a home for some of these other body parts. We've got a few more than we need, but these ones will be, I suppose, the thighs, something like that. That's cool. Yep. Object mode, pose mode. And I'm sorry if there's any flickering of my screen. It seemed to have happened after I went out of the screen recording the first time. I've got a little bit of screen flickering. Hopefully it's not too annoying in the video. That flickering. All right, but hopefully it's okay. Okay, let's look from the front. Yeah, all right. Shift select, pose mode, and Control P, parent to bone. Okay, so we've got a few like leftover bits of mesh. Oh, I can use them maybe for the feet. These can be feet. So let's do something like that. Let's look from the top, rotate them facing forwards. Kind of see where our feet would be. Yeah, it's gonna look really weird. That's cool. So something like that. That'll do. Shift select, pose mode, select the foot bone, Control P, parent to bone. One thing I haven't been paying attention of is I did apply on my scale. Yeah, okay. Some things I've just forgotten to check, but hopefully it's also okay. So to get that flat, I guess I RX 90, Y 90, grab it, and I'm going to rotate it. Same position. Now let's just check from the front. Yep, got to pop it over here. Oh yeah, okay, I'm going to space them out a bit. Okay, so I'm going to unparent this one. I'll show you how to do that in a moment. In case you make a mistake, you can always unparent something. Okay, I messed that up. So select the object, shift select the mesh, pose mode, select the bone, Control P, parent to bone. So back into object mode. This one I messed up because I want to have it more over here. So to unparent it, I just go to object, object menu up here, parent, clear parent, and keep transformation. So it'll just keep it wherever you left it. And I want to just move it over this way a little bit so that these have a bit more space. So now I'll just do the same thing again. Shift select the mesh, go to pose mode, select the bone, Control P, bone. Okay, so I think I've used everything except for the mattress. I can't think of any way to put it. Look, I'm sorry, mattress. You're not going to make the cut. I'm going to delete the mattress because I can't think of any way to put it. All right. Okay, so now we've got these body parts. If we click on the armature and go back into pose position and press play, and I'll just hide the armature, we've got this sort of dancing object. Now this is what I mean by clipping. See how like the chairs are sort of clipping into the body a bit. you know, these pieces weren't really made to be perfectly interlocking armor, so of course it's going to look a bit weird. I'm going to fix some of it, just with some scaling keyframes, but not all of it. And again, when you go into your own assignments, you can probably do it with more detail and more kind of professionalism. But all right, let's bring back our room, because the last thing I want to show you is oh, we've got an extra version of this has popped up. Okay, I'm just going to delete that. I must have duplicated that at some point. That's interesting. All right, fair enough. Welcome. Okay, so what we have at the moment now is we've got our bed and our bedroom animation, but we've got all of the duplicate objects sort of sitting there, and we don't want that. We don't want them to appear in the beginning of the animation. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our 1743, which is where they're going to start. 1743. This is where we're going to have our dancing start. And you can see actually the emotion's a little bit glitchy at the beginning, and that's just from the motion capture file. So I might actually just move it a little bit even further forwards. So I'm just going to press A, so I've got all the keyframes selected, and I'm going to just move it a bit further forward so that when we start to see it here, I like that bit when it's actually kind of smooth, when it lifts its arm up. This bit, I think that's nice. I'm going to bring that to there, and it means we've got less dancing, but oh, was I doing something strange there? Yes, I didn't have all my keyframes selected. That's why I was doing really weird stuff. Okay. All right, so now if I grab them, ooh, that's odd. Why can't I move that keyframe? Okay, I don't actually know, just for expediency. Okay, I might just leave it where it is for now rather than troubleshoot it. Something we can look at in class. Looks like there's some keyframe I can't move, so let's just kind of leave it as it is, and you know, we can always edit the video later. Okay, just as we have class coming up. All right, so what I wanted to do, I'll go back to this keyframe 743. What I'm going to do in order to have these objects be invisible until we want them is basically I'm going to set all of them with a scale of 0, the frame before we want them, and a scale of 1, the frame that we do want them. So the frame that we want them is frame 1743. So I'm just going to hit the scale parameter of every one of these objects. And make sure I'm getting all of them. I'm just scaling them all at 1. And then very simply, I'm just going to use my left arrow to go back to frame 1742, and then I'm just going to put all of these to 0. And that will mean that they will be invisible until their scale is 1. And because we're going from 1 keyframe to a second, there won't be any slow transition. It will just immediately jump to that scale because there's no keyframes in the middle where we can have, you know, a transition from 1 to 0.5 to 1. It's just straight from 0 to 1. So it's kind of just a keyframing trick to get objects to be visible and invisible. And it works for me, especially in this sort of simple type of animation. And we're going to do the opposite trick with the rest of the bedroom. That when we want to transition from our body parts to our bedroom, we will just do the opposite with the other pieces. So now if we go here, we've got our pieces, and here they're gone. So the last thing we're going to do is who are you? room. Why? Oh, I guess, okay, I can see you're in the room. You should be, this is some of my scene organization. So I think I might make the lampshades folder called furniture. Furniture. I'm going to put things like that in the furniture folder. So it makes a little bit more sense to me. So now we just have the room itself. I'll put the wall decoration in the furniture as well. Yeah, okay, that makes more sense to me. Okay, and then we want to hide that cube that we were using to make the window as well. Okay, so now I'll bring it back in our furniture. The last thing we're going to do is I want our furniture, if I just want to go to our keyframes here, our neatly stacked furniture, okay, oh, and our bed, of course. Okay, so all of this between here and here, I want to move it into the position of the armature dancer on that last frame before we made it disappear. So if I go to this 1743 frame, we can see where all the position of these objects are. Now I'm just going to do like a sort of a little quick sort of trick around. I'm just going to keyframe all of these into the position so that they match the body approximately. Because they're parented to the mesh, the transforms, we can't just type the numbers in it doesn't really seem to work. I'm just going to eyeball them into position. Now, if anybody online has a better way for me to do this, as always, I'm all ears. So I'm just going to do this and rotate it on the Z-axis. Hold on, RZ. And just kind of eyeball it into position. This is a little bit painful, and I'm sure I hope there's a better way to do this, but I couldn't immediately think of one, and simply because I couldn't copy the transforms after they were parented. So I just sort of got it roughly in position and keyframed it there. And I'm just going to do this with all of my objects here. So I'll grab the head and put the head in position. So it's going to probably Z90, get it sort of rotated. Get it in the right position here. Have a look from the top. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect because it's kind of a, it's not a super seamless animation, but that's pretty close. So I'll just keyframe those. And we'll do the arms. And again, you're very welcome to skip past this part because it is pretty repetitive. Here I'm going to hide the room so I can see what I'm doing. That's why I wanted it in a separate group. Okay, let's just check from the top. It's not quite right. Check from the side again. Okay, that's better, so keyframe that one. Okay, so here I'm going to rotate this. And I don't know how well this will work with the music, but as before, we can always, switch the timing of the keyframes there are some things I should talk about probably in like animation curves. We can make our animations a little more snappy. Using interpolation. I might talk about that either in this video or in class, but basically that's just changing whether the motion from in between the keyframes is a curve or it's a straight line, and that will change the sort of the speed of our animation. So I might put this one over here. Rotate it a bit. How close can we get it? This is a tricky one. How are we from the side? Not very good. Okay, that's not too bad. Keyframe, keyframe, keyframe. This lampshade, excuse me. Okay, let's have a look from the top. Okay, that looks good from the top. Are we good from the side? Yeah, pretty good. Okay, keyframe, keyframe. Now let's get these arms in. Because yeah, one of the reasons I can't do this from the rest position of the armature is that we want these to go into the position that the dance is going to be in when we start seeing the dance. So that's why I couldn't sort of use some of those transform positions before. But again, if somebody knows how I could get the exact location of these objects to sort of comp them in, that will be cool. Just going to pop them in place. Okay, keyframe. Okay, and we've got the mattress leg, which is mattress leg going to be here. It's going to be something like that from the front. Rotate on the Z-axis a little. It's because it's transforming around the motion. Some of these have gotten into kind of quite interesting, strange positions. It's a little hard to just eyeball them, but that's not too bad. Another cool thing in Blender is when you hit R, depending on where your mouse is, the dotted line will be longer or shorter, and the longer it is, the more fine control you have. Whereas if I hit R here, I have less fine control. So that's another kind of nice trick and a really nice bit of UI that Blender's put in. It's really handy, really nice quick way to switch between a precision tool and sort of a low resolution tool. Okay, yeah, I need to be rotated this way. Okay, almost done. Keyframe. We've got our thighs here, so I might just X90, Z90. I might just do some getting them in a basic position. It's better first. Oh, I shouldn't have done it on the Z-axis actually. I was facing the correct way. Okay, so let's just get this in position. Keyframe. So X90, front view, side view, yep, that'll do. Keyframe. That's the one I didn't use, so what that one's going to do, it's just going to scale to 0. Not super imaginative, but I'm sure you can think of something better in your own work, but I'm just going to do that so it disappears. Let's get our feet in. Apologies for the unbelievably uncreative decision I made there. Okay, so let's put this foot. I really like using this motion captured data though. I find it's kind of like, it's just bringing this other energy into a work that it's kind of easy to bring in, and you know, it's so nice that people upload all these files and it gives you something, it's like someone else's kind of creative energy that you know, if you don't know what to make, I find it's sort of like just splashing some paint on the canvas. It gives you something that you kind of have to adjust to, and it can be a really nice way to start a work. The same as a piece of music, you know, like if you know some musicians who, you know, you think could make a piece of music for you, I find it's a really nice way to animate as well. That maybe, like if you're like me, you know, I'm not very good with movement, but once I hear music, I can take a scene I've made and sort of think, okay, I know how this scene could move with that music, or what that music might look like. So I find these external sources like the music and the animation data can be a really nice way to sort of start having a story in your scene, if you don't know where to start. Okay, so let's just see how that looks now. So we'll have, let's just press play. Okay, so it's going to look weird and slow. I'll bring the other stuff back in. So it's going to be really weird and clippy and stuff, but I'm just going to probably leave it like that for this one, and maybe we'll just do something interesting with the lights to sort of hide it a little bit, just because I don't want this tutorial to go forever, and I want you to really have a think of, you know, there might be so many different ways you can take these ideas and use them yourself. Okay, so the one thing we need to do now is we need to just keyframe all of the other ones to 0 on the 744. So I'm just going to hide the body parts, and so these are all the ones that we just moved into position. And from the previous keyframe where I moved them into position, I'm just going to scale them all to 0. So I'll just put keyframes in here and just put that to 0. Those top 2 keyframes probably aren't necessary, but you know, I just like to have that little bit of consistency. Okay, let me send that to 0. Enter the keyframe. Scale that to 0. Enter the keyframe. Scale that to 0. And let's just so this is basically just making the old mesh from the old bedroom disappear, and it'll be replaced by this one. So we're sort of basically swapping one in for the other, because one is being driven by the motion data and the other one is something we keyframed ourselves. Now see how this foot is going through the floor? That was just because of the motion data and the way we rigged it. So depending on how you use your motion data, you know, you can move your motion data up a little bit, or just use lighting so you don't see some of those more kind of awkward moments where you get clipping. So now what we should have, if I just scrub through our timeline, room gets packed up, and then room starts transitioning into the body, and the body starts dancing. Okay, so like the movements are kind of cool. One of my feelings is that this whole bit is just really slow. So one thing I might do, you know, actually if I just hide the body parts, hide the room, can I just grab all of these quickly like that, and move that last keyframe, because I feel that, let's just see if that works. It might be, I might be oversimplifying that move a little bit here, because I like that moment when everything was sort of in order. Just want to have a look at that now, just to check it's still doing what we want it to do. Yeah, I've stuffed something up here. See how these are all jumbled and rotated? I think I have lost a keyframe. That's why things were looking a little odd. Yep. Somewhere I have not keyframed. I've not set a... okay. This keyframe just needs to be duplicated. Okay, because it's all started rotating way too early. Oh, that's an easy fix. Okay. So what we want to do is, if I go here to this moment here, which is going to be frame 1016, if I go back to these objects, I just want to duplicate this keyframe to 1016. So that's not a problem. So as an example, if I just grab all of these ones that are all out of whack, oops, sorry, I've selected the floor there. Is that all the ones that are all jumbled up? If I just do this, grab this keyframe, Shift D and move it to here. Now they're staying in their right position. Okay, much better. That looks better. Now, what I also thought was kind of interesting was if I just, oh, let's just see, hold on. Yeah, I think I want their movement to start here. Sorry for being so picky, but maybe instructing you in a little bit of pickiness won't be such a bad idea either. So I'll just hide the room. Make sure I've got everything there grabbed. And this keyframe here, I just want to duplicate it and bring it to here so everything starts moving a little later. So duplicating a keyframe and moving it is cool because, you know, that's sort of the benefit of the dope sheet, that we can change our timing really easily once we've got our keyframes. So now we've got that sort of slow, darker moment for longer, and they start moving later. And I think that's going to be interesting because we can do something interesting with lighting there. So what I want to do here is this moment where they start moving, I'm just going to now do the lights and then we'll be finished. So I'll hit Control Save and I'm going to open the lights folder and I'm going to add in a spotlight, a light spotlight. And I'll just position it, for the minute, I'll just position it sort of over our area. And I'm going to keyframe all of these to 0. And I'll probably have to duplicate a keyframe. Actually, maybe I can do that now. I'm just going to duplicate this keyframe so they all stay on for a while. I don't know when to here, or maybe even later. But then on this frame, I'm going to turn them all off. And we might turn them off earlier, but that one's already off. That's okay. I'll just put in that keyframe. I'm not okay. Okay, so now let's just see what happens here. So I've got light, 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 gets darker. Okay, so let's keep that. Go to where we put that keyframe, and now with the spotlight. And again, you know, if I'm not making this clear enough in the tutorial, we can go over it in class. But I'm just gonna brighten that spotlight up. Maybe I'll make it 1,000. Okay, that's, maybe I'll make it 2,000. And I'm gonna start doing kind of weird stuff with the lights. I'm gonna make these like colored and weird and stuff. So I'm gonna put in a keyframe here, and then when the scene's really, maybe here, I'll put in a keyframe of it 0. So that'll just mean it will kind of fade up from nothing. So as these lights go down, we're going to come up to this theatrical lighting. And we might change the order of that later. And then I'm going to add in another spotlight. So I'll just duplicate that one. And from here, I'll look from the front. And I'm just going to grab it and rotate it. And I'm just making a sort of like a, kind of making it look like a stage, you know? Just like with these slightly overlapping. And instead of the pink, I'm going to make it like a kind of a blue light. And make it like quite blue. Like looks like bad stage lights or something. And I'll make this one, what if we make it 3,000? What will that look like? Yeah, it kind of looks a little bit like a stage. So I'll keyframe that. And so that's still got the keyframe of 0 here. So let's see what this starts to look like here. You know, I think also I might make that come in like later, like maybe more like here. So if I grab both of these spotlights and I grab these keyframes and just press G for grab, and maybe I'll have the lights come up more slowly. Then we're going to have this kind of dark bit where we don't really know what's going on. Having a black screen is not a good idea, so I'll stretch this out a bit more. But that kind of looks cool, like only seeing the body be formed slowly, to me looks kind of interesting. So it's getting dark now. And then the lights are going to start coming up really slowly. So if I have a look on our area lights, maybe we'll make their fade out a little longer, so we don't have that kind of totally black screen. But to me, it's kind of like, maybe it's like a change of scene or something. So yeah, that's kind of how I'm going to finish this. And the last thing I'm going to do, as just a fun little trick that I thought looked pretty, was so now we need to bring our body parts back in, because they're the dancing ones. Is I'm just going to show you what I did with the hands before. So one of the worst bits of clipping, I guess, there's this the chair going through the shoulder, but there's also the hands that sort of look right at the beginning. The hand does this beautiful motion where it touches the head, but it really goes, if we look in our render, goes right through the face, and I found it really distracting. So what I thought looked cool was, from this early pose, I keyframed both of the hands in their scale, and then I kind of made the hands close. So as it comes up, I closed it. So say I put this at like 0.2, 0.2, is that a bit small? Or maybe it'll look cool. I don't know, put this one at like 0.7 and see what that looks like. 0.2, 0.2, 0.7. So kind of makes the hands like, it almost has a little bit of emotion to it. Yeah, I think it looks cool. So I'm going to do is, as that hand comes up there, and then later, I think maybe I'll have this first hand close earlier. So I'll have that keyframed here, and I'll have it close earlier. So they're not like, oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. Sorry, that was the hiding hand. So I want this one. So I'll have it here, and a little earlier, before the previous one closes, I'll go here. So I'll go 0.2, 0.2, 0.7, keyframe that. So now I've got kind of the hands closing, and then I thought here, see where they come out, I thought they could open up. So say they're closed here, so I'll keyframe that, and I'll keyframe that, and then as the dancer puts their arms out, I'll put it all back to 1. And you can start to use the objects as kind of little expressions. I thought that was kind of a cool trick. So da-dun, 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 here, and then we can close them again. I thought that'll look cool. So if I'll close them here, so what was it, 0.2, 0.2, 0.7, 0.2, 0.2, 0.7, and do the same to the other one, 0.2, 0.2, 0.7. So now the hands are kind of feeling kind of expressive. I really like that. It starts to just get some of that weird humanness. Did I forget to keyframe that last one? I went here, so hold on. This one goes there, and I did forget to keyframe the last one. That's annoying. 0.2, 0.2, 0.7. Okay, and insert keyframe. All right, so that's more than enough of just like going through and making stuff. But what I hope you can see is that we can start to make something that I think really starts to have a bit of a story to it. And you can really do whatever you want with the lights and the objects and stuff like that. Okay, so I'm just going to save that. And finally, I'll show you how to export the animation. So over here, actually in the render tab down here, we need to set a few things. I've left the resolution the same as the previous tutorial. I'm just going to make the output a PNG file, which is what it is by default. And that's an image file. And then I'm going to set this folder here where I've got my projects saved. I've made a folder called frames, and I've rendered it a few times, but I can make a new one called bedroom, can't spell, dance 2, 3, I've done it a few times, and then I'll accept that. And now if I just check everything else looks good. Now if I hit render animation, what it's going to do is it's going to start just making one image frame for every single frame, but we just want to check that we've got the endpoint set correctly. So one thing I did earlier, which I should just check now, is when is our music going to end? Our dance ends here actually, when the motion ends, and so just when it ends, I want to have the lights go down. That's the last thing I should do, and I should probably also just I'm just going to cut the sound and fade out the sound. So if I go to the sound file and I keyframe, I'll just put the volume back up to 1. I'm just going to put a keyframe there, put a keyframe here, and then go back to that previous keyframe and just at that final one and make it 0. So what that's done is that's faded out the music. If I play it, you'll hear it. Okay. Yeah, that'll do. I'm just doing this really quick now. The timing you'd probably want to do a little better. So I've got the frame, the music winding down, and now the final thing I'd want to do, when that music starts going down, I'm just going to look at my spotlights and I'll keyframe them to go down as well. So I'll just keyframe here and here to keep that final lighting, and then somewhere here I might I'll just turn them to 0. 0, enter, 0, enter, and again that timing is probably not amazing. I'll just select both of them and maybe I'll just well, how does that look? Yeah, so hear that little click. It's not the best place to do it in the music, but I just want to finish this off so that the tutorial's not too insanely long. So once you've worked out where your sound is going to fade down and your lights are going to come down, we can render the frames. So now if I hit render animation, what that's going to do is you'll see it clicking up here, frame 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, blah, 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 blah. And that's just rendering one frame at a time. And I'm just going to cancel the render because I've already rendered it before. And to compile it, if you just go into the video editing tab, which we made before by just hitting plus and going to video editing, but I've already got one here. And where we've got the sound, if I press shift left arrow, I just want to add the frames. So if I go shift A and add image sequence, and I go to my frames, I'll just add the first frame series I rendered, which is here they all are, and add image strip. And the timing's a bit different because I did it slightly differently before, but here was my previous animation. And I did a similar trick with the lights. And so now that that frame range is there, that means that Blender will actually ignore what's going on in the 3D scene, and it will just render what's here in the video editing sequencer. So if you ever have stuff here and you can't see your render, it's because this will overtake that. So you can always just like turn it off or delete it and bring it back later. But once that's there, you just want to turn it into a video. So you just change it from PNG into MPEG video, go into the encoding, and I just put it to MP4 and make sure it's got sound. So by default, Blender turns the sound off. We just want to turn the sound from no audio, put it onto MP3, and now if you press render animation, oh actually you probably just want to give it a different folder. So here I've got a folder that has video. I'd accept that. And now if I hit render animation, it will export a video file. Okay, that's it for this tutorial, and I'm sure there'll be lots of questions in class, and anybody else online, please feel free to give me some suggestions in the comments. Okay, thanks everyone. Bye-bye.